Hey, g'day everyone. Welcome to the first Loaded Dice Plays video. My name's Azza. I also go by Loaded Dice. I'm just a 30-something-year-old competitive wargamer from Australia. I've played Fantasy 40k, played a lot of War Machine back in the day, managed to represent Australia at the WTC. And then about March this year, I picked up Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I've loved it. I haven't stopped playing it. So I've played a few local events, which I managed to take out. I've just started playing in the league. I played season 8 of the league, and unfortunately for those who are in the TTS league, I went 4-2, so I didn't quite make cuts, although I was still alive until the last game. Fast forward to that, though, I did pick up the golden ticket from the Second Chance League in Oceania, so that was pretty cool. And as of recording, I'm 2-0 in Season 9. So just gives you a bit of a quick background that I kind of know what I'm doing in war games in general, and I'm doing okay in Marvel currently. I've not won anything significant. You know, I'm not some superstar. I'm not Morgan Reed from Australia. You can call me Budget Morgan Reed if you want to. But I kind of have an idea of how to play war games, and I'm doing okay when it comes to Marvel Crisis Protocol. So what I'm looking to do here on this channel is I'm going to do some card and character reviews. So I'm going to look to do tactics cards and characters separately. So each video will be a different tactics card, a different character. So I'm looking to keep these videos to around 10 minutes or so. And what I want to do is I don't want to focus on the hot take style. I don't want to focus on the hot take style reviews that some people get on podcasts, right? So I'm a big consumer of content. I listen to every podcast I can. I watch every video I can. I kind of take it all in. And that's one of the catalysts for myself trying to release my own content and give my own opinions on things. And one thing I really don't like is the hot take culture that we have. And it seems to be more important to release content and opinions first on cards. So nothing against people who do that in their podcasts. Like, I understand why you do it, and I mean, if I had my own podcast, I'd probably be doing the same thing if I had to do a weekly thing, and that was just part of it. So I fully understand. It's just not what I want to do, because I know when I have time to digest a card, my opinion on it can change from day to day, from week to week, month to month, if you know what I mean. So what I'm looking to do is cards that have been out for at least 2 or 3 weeks. All right, and that gives you an idea with this. The first video is going to be, the first series, I should say, is going to be the Hydra tactics cards. And I mean, as of recording, they're 2 weeks old released, but we had the cards spoiled about a month ago. All right, so I've had time to sit on them, digest them, think about them, put them into play, and just really consider the avenues of play that these tactics cards have. So with that, we're going to start off with World Domination. All right, and I think this is the best embodiment of what I just said. Right, because this card, I'll start with just the details of the card. All right, so you play it when you control all the secures on the board. You get 1 VP for every 2 that you're controlling, and you gain 1 power for everyone on your team for every 2 that you're controlling. All right? But this card, like I said, the embodiment of what I just said, when this card was first released, I was so cold on it, like cold as ice. I thought no one is ever going to play this. It's going to be ridiculous. Because me personally, I was playing a lot of Mad Men, Infinity, Riots, that kind of stuff, where it's 4 objective tokens. And I looked at this card and thought, if there's ever a situation that you can play this, you probably won the game anyway. That was my day one thought, right? So you fast forward a day, and other people had started to break this card. And you break it down to the sense that if you're playing this on Mayor Fisk and Terrigen, which I'm going to say Fisk and Terrigen a lot, so just get used to that. But on Fisk and Terrigen, if you have prior with Red Skull, because the grunts interact, and because the grunts interact with secures, you can walk the grunts up to one, you can walk Red Skull up to the other one, and you can play this card. And then you just get it turn 1. There's nothing your opponent can do. There's no real counterplay to that. You just get it. So being able to do that turn 1, I actually thought it might need a day 1 nerf, right? So that's just like the ends of the spectrum that I went to over the space of 24 to 48 hours, right? I've gone from absolute crap card to maybe this needs a nerf, and then I think by the end of this video, we're going to work out that I've landed somewhere in between. So if we just focus on the terms and conditions of this one first, so what you have to do to play the card, control all of the secures, right? So I think if we put it in a vacuum, and I'm just going to say I'm only going to consider this card being used on Terrigen and Fisk, because I think if you're thinking about using this card on any other secure, it's probably not going to happen. Like, I can't recommend it, and I don't think it's worth taking at all. So if we look at just the terms and conditions on Fisk and on Terrigen, this card's actually okay. It's actually pretty easy to get, especially if you got priority. Probably only if you have priority, to be honest. So then if we go to what you get from it, right? 1 VP and 1 power for everyone. It's not nothing. So if I put it in perspective of other tactics cards that give you VPs, the ones that come to my head are Usurp the Throne and the weird Punisher one, where he plays it for 4 power, and if you KO someone, you get a VP. Comparatively, this is a lot easier, right? This is a lot. The terms and conditions to get that reward is a lot easier. The second part of it is the power gain. So the only other tactics card that I can think of that is like this is Advanced R&D, which, first of all, it's a restricted card, and this card isn't, so it's got a benefit there. The other part of it is Advanced R&D, the power has to come from someone else in your team, whereas World Domination just comes from the bank of Hydra. You just get the power spread across your team. So you walk up, you control those 2 points, you play the card, all of a sudden you get 1 VP, and you get 3 to 6 power depending on threat level and how wide you're going. So with that, that's actually a pretty good card, right? You can't really undersell that much power, and also starting with a VP lead. So I think on that, pretty high. But I've got to talk about the negatives to this card and the negatives of playing this card in that situation. All right. So the situation is you've got priority, you're playing on Fisk or Terrigen, and you've moved up your grunts, you've moved up Red Skull, and you've played this card. So the negatives right there, if you're playing, let's say, Spiders, Cubes, Montesi, anything with a center extract, you've given your opponent the first opportunity to take that center extract, right? And that means that usually that 1 VP that you've gained from World Domination, your opponent's going to make up by taking the center extract, which I don't think, and with the meta that we're in, I don't think we can understate how important that can be. Not the end of the world, but it can be important. Of course, if it's Scrolls or Researcher or whatever, it's kind of irrelevant. But if it is one of those center extract crisis, that could be something worth considering, and it is a bit of a negative to the card. The second one, though, is the fact that your grunts and Red Skull are on the midline, and I'll start with the grunts of why this can be bad. So you've played the card, you've got your 3 to 6 power depending on how wide you are, but now you've got this 1 defense, 3 health grunt on the midline where your opponent can easily just make a walk and an attack action and use the grunts as a bit of a power battery. Like, you've gotten what you've want out of it, but also you have to be aware that you're probably going to give up 3 power to your opponent just by having this dead power battery on the midline. The next one is Red Skull, right? And so Red Skull's going to be in the middle of the board, on the left or right, of course, but he's going to be on that mid board. So he's going to be susceptible to, let's say, a Hulk double walking and throwing him back towards the opponent's force. Probably the worst case scenario that I can think of is a Juggernaut walking, sliding, power punching, getting enough power to then yeet Red Skull back towards the opponent's lines with Do You Know Who I Am? Like, there's a few bad things that can happen to Red Skull if he's just sitting there on the midline. All right. But to counter that exact same line of thinking, you've just gotten all this extra power, right? So you're probably going to have things online if you're putting defensive tech into your list. So you're probably going to have a fallback or an escort to safety potentially, or a Gwen lifesaver. You're going to be able to have the power to pay for your defensive tech if you have it in your roster. And that kind of sums up the pros and cons for taking World Domination. I think it's a good card, and I think you're going to play it. I think you're going to have it in your 10 all the time if you're going single affiliation Hydra. If you're going dual affiliation, maybe it doesn't quite make you 10, but I can see it making you 10 and pretty much only coming out if you have priority and you've rolled up Fisk or Terrigen Mists. There's one more crisis that I can see it getting play on, and I've heard a few people talk about different ones, and it's not demons, even though it's an option, and it's not gamma. All right, that's if your opponent's giving you their home gamma, the game's probably over anyway. All right, like they're probably losing that game. It's sword base for me. So, and just quietly actually think sword base should be in Hydra's 3. I think if I get enough requests for what tactics and play style for affiliations, I might go into it at a later date. But I do think that Hydra want to be playing on sword base. So the theory is the same, right? So if you have prio and you've rolled up sword base, you can take world domination, because one thing you're probably going to look to do is, well, grunts will go on hard one side, they'll walk up and they'll auto flip the sword. Red Skull can walk up the other side and auto flip that side. Then your opponent has a very difficult choice to make when it comes to, do they take the free flip on the center? Do they try to displace Red Skull or the grunts? Do they try to take a 50-50 roll? And if they take the mid, let's say you've got a Hulk or something similar. I use Hulk a lot, so Hulk's probably the best example for me. Hulk can just double walk to the middle, throw someone away, and then auto flip the middle point, and all of a sudden you've got world domination online again. And you've got all 3 sword bases. And actually, that's kind of the reason you want sword base in the list, is because you can flip 2 of them first activation. I think that's a pretty big deal. Pretty much wraps up this card for me at the minute. So, as I was saying, I was pretty cold at the start. I was super hot on it like a day or so later. Where I've ended up is, I can see it has a place, and it's going to be in your 10 if you're playing Hydra, and it's probably only going to come out in your 5 if you have prio on Terrigen or Mare Fisk. Potentially, if you're playing sword base, there's a play there if you want to go for it. But all in all, I think it's an okay card. It's fine. It's a fine card. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't, that's all good. I can take constructive criticism. I've got pretty thick skin. I'm not sure if you can see it on the video or not. But I'm going to look to keep doing the Hydra tactics cards. So that'll probably be the next few videos is going to be Hydra. But yeah, cheers.